I got an Aiwa M110 multi-system conversion VCR in to take a look at it. Guy that owns it says, yeah, you got it. Doesn't work. Put a tape in, nothing happens. Dead. Tape won't come out. So we're going to get into this one and see what's wrong with it. This is one of these machines that will convert between PAL and NTSC. It has a digital converter built in, and they were not that expensive when they were new. This is a dual system PAL NTSC multi-converter VCR by Aiwa. This one's called an M110. I've actually had a couple of these things in the past. My first converting machines that I had two of these things. I've got one now. I've still got one of these, but I had two of these machines, and then I went to an AGW1 for conversions, and the AGW1 broke. So I've still got one of these machines. They will convert NTSC or PAL tapes to NTSC and NTSC tapes to PAL, but they record what they're given. So if you give it a PAL signal, it'll record PAL. If you give it an NTSC signal, it will record NTSC. And of course, if you put a PAL tape in, it can either output it as a PAL or an NTSC. It'll also do CCAM, but it will not convert. It will play a Middle East CCAM, ME CCAM tape. It will not play the French version of CCAM because the French did things a little differently. The way that they recorded the signal on the tape used different frequencies. So this one here apparently doesn't work. So that's why I'm taking it apart before I even plug it in, because I'm told it has a problem with tapes. So now the unit's apart. Let's see what it does when I plug it in. Apparently nothing. It does have power. Power light's on. But it does absolutely nothing. Power light appears to be a little bit dim on this, and when you press the power button, this light should get brighter, and one of these other lights should light up green. But the power light does appear to be a bit on the dim side. It does get brighter though. Like when it's in standby, the light is dim, but not that dim. So I think we may have a power supply problem on this unit. So let's dig into the power supply. It's tucked in under the circuit board here. So let me get the board out of the way. Digital converter board's hiding in the back here, by the way, on these units. How to get the power supply out? I think it just holds in place by a couple screws. These were just a two-head mono VCR. But of course, the strength to these ones was the fact that it could play foreign tapes. That was the strength to this machine, and they were not expensive. when I bought mine, and I bought mine when they first came out, it was like they were really quite inexpensive. This one's number 3033 is the serial number of this one, right? 003033. I'm gonna look at what mine is. The one that I have is much newer than this. Mine is 10,326, right? 010326. But other difference between this one and mine is mine's made in Malaysia, and this one's made in Japan. And mine has conventional F81 connectors for the tuner and a standard channel 3, channel 4 modulator, whereas this one's a UHF tune between 30 and 39 UHF. Big difference on it. Power supply should lift out of this one. Also, mine's CSA approved, and this one is not. This one has a type special acceptance. So this would have been one of the first ones that was imported. The first ones that I had 2 of them. I sold them. This could very well be one of the ones that I had and I sold. Because I had 2. I sold them when I got an AGW1. And then a buddy of mine, when he was cleaning up, he had one and he gave it to me. This thing stinks of something, and I see something on here. I'm wondering if it's capacitor piss, basically. I don't see anything on the board there, but I do on the back here, like something's leaked on it maybe. That might be something that's leaked in from outside. What the hell's holding this power block in? There we go. Power supply almost looks like a Sony, doesn't it? Almost looks like the Sony SLV R5 or you know, one of those caps are blown up in here. Look at that one. Yum. There's probably our problem right there. Yeah. Yummy. Let's get this thing unplugged so I can work on it. So a power supply just plugs in, a couple plugs. There we go. Remove the power supply. Get that out of the way. Now we can work on that. Now, for those that don't know, Aiwa was a sister company of the Sony Corporation. That's why there's the resemblance between the Sony and Aiwa. Oh yeah, look at the crap. This is in bad shape. Once I get into the transport, you guys are going to say, wow, that looks like a Sony. Well, it's because it is. You're going to recognize the transport as looking exactly like a late model Sony. It's identical. Look at over here on the copper heatsink. This thing's had a few caps explode on it. These ones here have blown up. These ones are all blown and are going to need to be replaced. At least we know the oscillator's working because the standby was on, but the voltage is not correct, obviously, and that's why it's not working. Well, for starters. So let's get that first cap out, C209. This one right there. Let's get that one. I'm just waiting for my soldering iron to get up to temperature. We'll change out a few caps on this thing and see whether this thing will come back to life. I bet it will. I hate it when the bloody capacitors like leak like this. It makes such a mess. I can see this is going to be a headache right now. Wires in the way. Sometimes it helps to add some more solder to the one that's bad, just to try to transfer heat properly. Quite often makes removing these caps a little easier, like that. This one's a 560 by 10 volts, and it's a Rubicon. What do you know? I have some 560s at 35 volts. More than enough for this one. What other ones are going to be bad in here? I bet you C206 is also going to be a bad one. We'll check it. Let's clear off the... .206 looks like it's also probably going to be... Maybe not. It might be just these 10 volt ones that blew up because they were running too close to their maximum voltage. But we'll remove this other one as well. At 10, I don't have a 1200 at 10, but I do have a 1000. This one probably needs to be replaced. We'll check it with ESR and see what it looks like. But it looks like it may have been leaking. But that might be from the other cap that blew up too. But we'll take a look at the ESR on this one and the capacitance. ESR wise, 0.07. So, yeah, I think it looks to be okay, because, I mean, a 1000 should be 0.12, a 4700 0.23, and this is 0.07, so this cap is more than likely okay. And what we're seeing on here is just overspray from the one that exploded. Because you see... Zero the meter. .07. This one's more likely fine. We'll check the capacitance of it with the capacitance meter. I think this one's okay. 1285, 1200. This one's no problem. And I bet you these other ones are also probably okay, because they're not bulging or anything. Just these two 560s vented and blew up all over the board. And there's crap around this regulator here too. I'm gonna have to clean this up. That one may be bad. That one there looks 94. That one's going to be bad. And that one, 207, looks like it's probably bad too. How about 208? 208 looks like it's bad. Definitely this one here is bad. And 0.31. So there's a few more here that are bad. But there's also these ones here I think are okay. Just by looking at them on the meter initially, that looks to be pretty good for ESR. So we got a few caps that are bad on here. I'm gonna put this other one that's testing good back in, and then we'll change these other ones that are bad. I'm just checking continuity with the meter in diode test mode just to make sure none of the traces are open where that corrosion was from the capacitor. This ground is okay. Good, it's working. That part works. So today at work, I had to work at a customer's place, and I recognized the name of someone I went to school with. It's a lady I went to school with through high school. Haven't seen her in years. 40 years, basically. 40 years this year since I graduated. And here she is, still living in the same town. Okay. Okay, this one is As you can see, this one's bad too. 330 at 16, that's C207. I think this other one's probably the same. Ugh. And the 220 at 25. So 330 to 220. And this other one here is also going to be bad. This is the three that I measured. 330, 220, and it's probably going to be one of the two. It's either going to be a 220 or a 330. I get a kick out of when people say, "Oh, use Nikon caps; they're the best." Well, a Rubicon, another 330. Nikon, a Rubicon. This is a Rubicon. This one, and it's leaking too. It's gonna get hot. This pin came right out of the bottom of the cap. So two 330s and a 220. That's what I got to dig up. I'm going to try it after changing these 5 caps, because this is likely all it's going to need. Other than some washing off the board. Oh, that was a good bag. Hole in it. We're gonna bag up these old parts so that I give them back to the guy that owns it. I washed up my hands there. I don't feel like touching these stinking capacitors anymore. Getting any more capacitor crap on my hands. Crapacitors. There. That's 5 of them. That ought to do it for this thing. I hope. I hope that's all it needs. I guess we'll find out pretty quick. It's either going to turn on or it's not. And I get the feeling it will turn on at this point. So if you guys want to look down on the top of this thing, this is the digital board back here. That's what does the magic. NTSC to PAL and PAL to NTSC. Right down there. And guess what it's got on it? It's got our favorites. Hopefully they're not bad. Now one of these plugs went onto this board over here somewhere. This one went over here. And the other one went onto, I think it's right here on the front connector. So one power plug over here, and the other one goes down onto this board. They didn't make these things easy to work on, did they? Although nothing's as bad as that JVC that I had apart a couple weeks back. Now that one was a fun one, let me tell you. I'm just looking for the couple screws to hold the chassis plug in. That should be enough. That'll let me power this up and see if it turns on. Okay. The moment of truth. Power. Okay, well that's a good sign. It turns on. I have a feeling there's a belt that's broken on here too. Well, that's a good sign. At least the thing turns on now. We can put the power supply back in. This thing's getting more expensive by the minute. There's no room back here. The caps I put in are a little bit taller, and they're actually touching up against other components at the bend one over a bit. Hopefully it's not going to short anything out. Oh, wonderful. Whole deck's got to come out to get at the belts. Great design, Aiwa. Great design. So the front panel's got to come off, for starters. Remind me not to do this when mine breaks. Remind me just to toss it. Okay, there should be one more, I think one more screw back here, maybe two, that holds the chassis in, but where the hell are they? What a stupid design. You see this? They put a screw right there on this chassis that this circuit board blocks, and the only way to get it out is to remove this board. As you can see, the belts are melted. All the belts need to be replaced on this one. Drive belt, shot, capstan belt, shot, loading belt, shot. 4 belts this one needs. I don't know if I'm going to have them. I doubt it. But we'll see whether I can find something that might work on this one. I'll have to go through my belt collection and see if I can find anything that might even be close. Let's see if this one will work for the capstan. It's probably too big. I might have a smaller one, but we'll just see. Does this one thread around here? Oh, that one is the right one. That one's the right one for the capstan. What about this one? That's too small. I do have a bunch of different size belts. I'm just looking to see if I've got one that's going to be in the right neighborhood. That one might work for that belt. Yeah, that one might work for that one. And then they gotta get a shorter one for this. I think that one's a little too big. We'll see. Yeah, that one's too big. That one might work for that. And this one, I think it might be okay. Okay. Well, there's how you remove the board. There's a screw that holds it in place. That's how you access that stupid screw that was down the bottom that I took out the hard way. There's another little board here that plugs into this stupid thing. Oh well, it's still a stupid design. That screw was hidden from view. And I do believe that part works. Shall we check it out and see whether it plays a tape? Okay, power on. I'll just put this tape back in. Take-up spool's not turning. So, oh, neither of the spools are turning. So we have more problems. We're getting there though. At least it turns on and it starts up. Well, we can see that all the gears are going to turn. All the wheels are turning, all the pulleys are turning. And there's lots of torque. But the take-up spool's not turning, so something's jamming the take-up spool. It's not eating the tape though, it is retracting the tape. Just the take-up spool is not turning on playback, so we have to investigate why. I'll try putting the mechanism through its paces without a cassette loaded. You see it loads, but the take-up spool doesn't turn. and it doesn't retract the tape. But it does turn now. It does have the torque, either that or the clutch when it's in low torque mode, but it seemed like the real lock was still on because when I turned it by hand, you could hear it ratcheting. Listen. See? It was like the real hub was still locked. Check the mode switch on this. It's in the bottom, I think. Yeah, it's in the bottom on this one. The mode switch on this is underneath this gear. And I don't really want to take the entire mechanism apart to get at it. When it loads, that's putting the tape through its paces to load the tape. That should be in play mode now. It could be the clutch is broken. Because this should be when I turn the pinch roller, it should be turning. Yeah, this should be turning the tape spool now, and it's not. It could be this clutch assembly. It's giving me trouble. Pinch roller is engaged now. The pinch roller is turning. And this should be turning the take-up spool. And it's not. You can hear it latching. These are these wonderful circuit boards too. Here, these little white pieces you see. These are pass through from one side of the board to the other. This is a double-sided board. Very, very, very cheap garbage. That gear we hear is actually this gear here. Right, that's the pendulum that is driven off of this clutch. I think this clutch is kind of screwed on this one. Let's see if we can fix it. Yeah, the clutch is right here. So the clutch is under this pulley. If I can take this apart. When this wheel spins, it should be transferring power down to the take-up and supply reels, and it's not. Wonderful. Cut washers breaking. This is seized up. This clutch is supposed to turn, but this is seized. That's why it's not turning. Yeah, this is seized up right here. This is really, really stiff. So I'll take off these gears if I can. Gotta take this out as well, I think. Let me just unload the mechanism and see whether this will. Move this plate out of the way. See whether it's bolted in from the top. Might be bolted in from the top. I think it is. I think this is bolted in from the top. I can lift this entire assembly out maybe to work on it. Oh, look at that. Brittle gears. Plastic crap. Well, I get a feeling that this thing here is shot. This is this cheap plastic. It just shattered. Like, I didn't put any stress on there. I was just turning it like this and it just popped apart. The gears are crumbling. Yeah. Cheap plastic. Cheap plastic. Well, at this point, I guess I'm going to have to try and source gears for this thing. They're all seized up too. Like, they're everything's seizing on this thing. That's what's happened, is this plastic is deteriorated. I bet you this one here, this whole clutch assembly is going to need to be replaced because these gears aren't turning. What's happened is the plastic is deteriorated and it's seized up, and it's actually seized up to the metal post. At this point, I'm going to say that this machine is probably not worth fixing. And it's unfortunate because it's a standards converter, but cost-wise, this guy is going to be looking at a lot of money. I'll have to get a hold of him and tell him, hey, sorry, Ben. You know, if it was just caps and a belt, you could have fixed this thing, but you've got gears that are deteriorated and are just crumbling. So I don't know whether we're going to be able to even find these gears. Don't suggest 3D printing. Unless somebody's already made the gear and you can tell me where I can get one from. I don't have a 3D printer. I don't have any means to print a gear, and even if I did, it wouldn't be worth my while. What I'd have to charge to design a gear and print it, if I had the capability, would be far more than this machine's worth. But that's the problem with this crap. Oh yeah, you see, it's just like no pressure at all, and it just snaps. Just junk. Anyway, I'm done on this one. This one's likely going to be going to the scrap heap. I'll talk to the guy and then pull my new caps out of this thing, and that'll be the end of this one. It's unfortunate, but that's what happens sometimes when you get this old electronics. And I still don't know whether the electronics work. I don't know if there's any other caps that are bad in here, but at this point, at this stage of the game, I'm going to say this thing is probably beyond repair. Thanks for watching.